Right now, as you're watching this, your DNA is having a conversation with the universe that your conscious mind never hears. Every emotion you feel creates a specific electromagnetic signature that your genetic material reads like instructions in a cosmic manual. Scientists like Fritz Albert Popp discovered that DNA emits actual photons of light, biophotons, that carry information patterns far beyond what we thought possible. Your body's been listening long before your mind learned to speak, and it's translating your emotional states into biological reality every second. Think of your DNA as the most sophisticated radio antenna ever created, constantly tuned to the frequency of your feelings. When you experience gratitude, researchers have measured DNA physically expanding. During fear, it contracts. This isn't mystical thinking, it's quantum biology happening in real time. These electromagnetic conversations don't just affect your cellular health. They influence the synchronicities you experience, the opportunities that appear, and the reality that unfolds around you. Understanding this silent language is your key to conscious creation, and what you're about to discover will fundamentally change how you see your role in shaping existence itself. Now that you understand how your DNA operates as a constant transmitter, broadcasting your cellular state to the quantum field, we need to explore the conductor of this entire symphony, your emotions. Here's something that will fundamentally shift how you see your inner world. Emotions aren't just fleeting psychological experiences happening somewhere in your mind. They're precise electromagnetic instructions flowing through every single cell in your body, literally programming your biology and reshaping the reality field around you. When you feel joy, your heart generates what researchers call coherent wave patterns, smooth, rhythmic electromagnetic frequencies that synchronize your entire nervous system. Scientists at Backenjin-Ruded and Taste, the HeartMath Institute, have measured these patterns using sophisticated equipment, and what they've discovered is remarkable. Joy creates electromagnetic signatures that look like perfect sine waves on their monitors, while fear produces jagged, chaotic frequencies that scatter in all directions. But here's where it gets fascinating. Your heart isn't just pumping blood, it's generating the strongest electromagnetic field in your body, extending 3 to 8 feet beyond your physical form. Think about that for a moment. Right now, as you're reading this, your emotional state is broadcasting itself several feet in every direction, creating an invisible sphere of electromagnetic information that other people's nervous systems can actually detect. This explains something you've probably experienced countless times but never understood scientifically. You walk into a room and immediately sense tension, even though no one has spoken. You meet someone new and feel an instant connection or immediate discomfort. You're having a great day, then spend time with a stressed friend and suddenly feel drained. That's not mystical intuition, that's electromagnetic field interaction happening in real time. Dr. Rollin McCraty's research team has documented how one person's heart rhythm patterns can actually synchronize with another person's brainwaves when they're in close proximity. They call this energetic communication, and it's happening whether you're conscious of it or not. Your emotional field is constantly influencing others, and theirs is influencing you. Now let's dig deeper into the biological mechanism. Every emotion you experience triggers a cascade of biochemical reactions that don't just affect your mood, they literally alter your genetic expression. Dr. Bruce Lipton's groundbreaking work in epigenetics shows us that sustained emotional patterns can turn genes on or off, fundamentally changing how your DNA operates. When you maintain states of gratitude, compassion, or genuine joy for extended periods, your body produces entirely different proteins than when you're chronically stressed, angry, or fearful. Studies on meditation practitioners have revealed that just 8 weeks of consistent practice can alter the expression of genes related to inflammation, cellular aging, and immune function. Your emotions are rewriting your genetic code in real time. Consider this practical example. You wake up feeling anxious about your day. That anxiety immediately triggers your sympathetic nervous system, flooding your bloodstream with cortisol and adrenaline. These stress hormones don't just make you feel uncomfortable, they're chemical messengers instructing every cell in your body to prepare for threat. Your immune system suppresses, your digestive system slows, your heart rate increases, and your electromagnetic field becomes chaotic and contracted. Now multiply this single moment by days, weeks, months of similar emotional patterns. You're literally programming your body to exist in a state of chronic stress, and that programming extends beyond your physical boundaries into the quantum field around you. You become a walking broadcast station transmitting frequencies of anxiety, and the universe responds by reflecting those frequencies back to you through your experiences. This is the biological foundation of what people call the law of attraction, though most explanations miss the scientific mechanism entirely. You're not attracting experiences through wishful thinking, you're doing it through electromagnetic resonance. Your emotional field acts like a tuning fork, vibrating at specific frequencies that harmonize with matching frequencies in your environment. The deeper understanding of these quantum biological processes, the precise techniques for consciously directing your electromagnetic field, and the advanced practices used by mystery schools throughout history, this is exactly what we explore in depth at Insights Academy. These aren't concepts you'll find in mainstream science textbooks or public platforms. We're talking about the practical application of universal laws that most people never learn exist. If you're ready to understand how to consciously conduct your cellular orchestra, you can access our complete guide to the Kybalion and advanced electromagnetic field training by visiting the link in the description. But you don't need to wait to start experimenting with this knowledge. Pay attention to your emotional states throughout the day, and notice what happens in your external environment. When you're genuinely appreciative, not forcing positivity, but feeling authentic gratitude, observe how people respond to you differently. Notice how opportunities seem to appear more readily, how synchronicities increase, how even traffic flows more smoothly around you. This isn't coincidence. You're witnessing electromagnetic field coherence in action. Your heart's coherent patterns are creating a sphere of organized energy that other electromagnetic systems, including other people's nervous systems, naturally harmonize with. You become what researchers call an attractor field for coherent experiences. The inverse is equally measurable. When you're broadcasting frustration, resentment, or chronic worry, you're creating electromagnetic chaos that attracts matching chaotic experiences. Your field becomes scattered and incoherent, and reality reflects that incoherence back to you through delayed flights, difficult conversations, technology malfunctions, and a general sense that everything is working against you. Understanding this mechanism changes everything because it reveals that mastering your emotional frequency isn't just about feeling better, it's about learning the fundamental language of creation itself. Every sustained emotion becomes a set of instructions broadcast to the quantum field, and that field responds by organizing experiences that match your electromagnetic signature. Your cellular orchestra is playing constantly, and your emotions are the conductor's baton. The question isn't whether you're influencing reality through your electromagnetic field, you absolutely are. The question is whether you're conducting consciously or letting random emotional reactions create chaos in your personal symphony. This is just the beginning of understanding how your biology interfaces with the quantum field to generate your experienced reality. You know how when you walk into a room after an argument, people can feel the tension even without knowing what happened. That's not intuition or psychology, that's physics. Your emotional state literally broadcasts into the quantum field around you, and that field responds by organizing reality to match your frequency. Think about this for a moment. The same DNA we discussed earlier, constantly transmitting its electromagnetic signatures, isn't operating in isolation. It's communicating with a vast, interconnected web of energy that quantum physicists call the zero-point field, essentially the fabric of space itself. This field contains infinite potential, but here's what most people don't realize. It takes its cues from you. Every emotion you experience creates a specific electromagnetic pattern in your heart. Your heart generates an electrical field 60 times greater in amplitude than your brain, and a magnetic field 5,000 times stronger. When you feel fear, your heart rhythm becomes chaotic and incoherent. When you experience genuine gratitude or love, it becomes smooth and coherent. These aren't just internal experiences, they're broadcasting stations sending signals into the quantum field. The field responds through a principle that governs everything in nature: resonance. When you strike a tuning fork tuned to 440 Hz, every other 440 Hz tuning fork in the room will start vibrating without being touched. This isn't magic, it's physics. Like frequencies always find and amplify each other. Your emotional frequency works exactly the same way, attracting experiences, people, and circumstances that match your dominant energetic signature. I've watched this play out countless times in my research. There was a woman I worked with who lived in a constant state of financial anxiety. She would check her bank account multiple times daily, always expecting bad news. Her heart rate variability measurements showed chronic stress patterns, jagged, incoherent rhythms that looked like electrical static. Within months, she experienced a series of unexpected expenses: car repairs, medical bills, job instability. The field was literally organizing matter and events to match the frequency of lack and fear she was consistently broadcasting. But here's where it gets fascinating. When we taught her to shift into heart coherence through specific breathing techniques, everything changed. Not her circumstances at first, her frequency. Her heart rhythm patterns became smooth and ordered. She began experiencing what researchers call physiological coherence, where her heart, brain, and nervous system synchronized. Within weeks, she started receiving unexpected opportunities, a better job offer, a forgotten insurance refund, even finding money she'd misplaced. The same field that had been reflecting scarcity back to her was now organizing abundance. This isn't positive thinking or wishful manifestation. This is your vagus nerve, the longest cranial nerve in your body, translating your emotional states into biological instructions. When you're in coherent states, your vagus nerve sends signals that optimize immune function, improve decision-making, and enhance your ability to perceive opportunities. When you're in incoherent states, it triggers stress responses that literally narrow your perception and close you off from possibilities. The HeartMath Institute has documented this with over 30 years of research. They've shown that people with high heart rate variability, meaning their hearts can quickly shift between coherent and incoherent states as appropriate, have better health outcomes, stronger relationships, and more success in achieving their goals. But here's what their research really reveals. These people are better at consciously modulating their electromagnetic signature. Most people are unconscious broadcasters. They wake up and immediately check their phones, flooding their nervous systems with other people's anxiety and drama. They watch news designed to trigger fear responses. They replay yesterday's problems or worry about tomorrow's challenges. All of this creates electromagnetic chaos, mixed signals that the field reflects back as confused, unpredictable life experiences. The field doesn't judge your frequency as good or bad. It simply responds with mathematical precision. Broadcast fear, receive fearful experiences. Broadcast gratitude, receive experiences that generate more gratitude. Broadcast the frequency of someone who feels powerless, and you'll encounter situations that reinforce powerlessness. This is why two people can attend the same networking event and have completely different experiences. They're broadcasting different frequencies, and the field is organizing different responses. But here's the crucial part that most manifestation teachings get wrong. You can't fake coherence. The field responds to your authentic electromagnetic state, not your mental intentions. If you're thinking positive thoughts while your body is flooded with stress hormones, you're broadcasting mixed signals. The field reflects this back as mixed results, moments of hope followed by disappointment, brief successes that don't sustain. True coherence happens when your thoughts, emotions, and cellular frequency align. When your DNA is singing the song of possibility we discussed earlier, when your emotional orchestra is playing in harmony, and when your heart is broadcasting clear, coherent signals into the quantum field, this is when you stop being an unconscious reactor to life and become a conscious creator. The most profound part? Once you understand this mirroring process, you can use your external reality as a feedback system. Your relationships, your health, your opportunities, they're all showing you exactly what frequency you've been broadcasting. Instead of blaming circumstances or other people, you can ask, what is this experience reflecting back to me about my internal state? This is the quantum mirror Thoth spoke of. Standing in front of a mirror made of energy and realizing that your every heartbeat shapes what the mirror shows. The question isn't whether you're influencing the field, you already are, every moment. The question is whether you're going to become conscious of this influence and learn to use it intentionally. Your external world is about to become your greatest teacher, showing you exactly how to tune your frequency to create the reality you actually want to experience. Picture this. You're trying to tune into your favorite radio station, but all you hear is static, competing signals, fragments of different broadcasts bleeding through. That's exactly what's happening in your biofield right now. Your body is broadcasting on multiple conflicting frequencies simultaneously, creating an electromagnetic cacophony that drowns out your authentic signal. Most people walk through life like broken radios, transmitting chaos instead of coherence. Their thoughts ping-pong between worry and hope. Their emotions swing from suppressed anger to forced positivity. Their actions contradict their stated values. This internal discord creates what researchers call noise in your bioelectromagnetic field, interference patterns that make clear communication with the quantum field nearly impossible. Think about your typical day. Your mind churns through endless mental chatter, replaying yesterday's conversations, rehearsing future scenarios, judging, comparing, analyzing. Meanwhile, your heart carries suppressed emotions from years past. That disappointment you never processed, the grief you pushed down, the excitement you learned to contain. Your nervous system stays locked in subtle fight or flight mode, responding to imaginary threats your mind conjures up. All of this creates measurable electromagnetic interference. When HeartMath Institute researchers hook people up to sensitive monitoring equipment, they can literally see the chaos. Heart rate variability patterns look like jagged mountain ranges, erratic, unpredictable, incoherent. Brainwaves scatter across multiple frequencies without synchronization. The autonomic nervous system flip-flops between sympathetic and parasympathetic activation. But here's where ancient wisdom meets cutting-edge science. When the mind becomes still, when the heart expands, the noise disappears, and the original frequency of your being emerges. This isn't mystical poetry, it's measurable biophysics. Coherence looks completely different on monitoring equipment. Heart rhythms transform from chaotic spikes into smooth, sine wave patterns. Brain waves synchronize across different regions. The nervous system finds its natural balance. Most remarkably, this coherent state becomes self-reinforcing. Your body remembers how to maintain its optimal frequency. Let me be clear about what coherence actually means, because there's massive confusion around this. Coherence isn't about maintaining constant positivity or suppressing negative emotions. That approach actually creates more noise, not less. True coherence emerges from authentic alignment between your thoughts, emotions, and actions, even when those emotions are challenging. When you're authentically angry about injustice, and you acknowledge that anger without judgment, and you channel it into constructive action, that's coherent. When you feel genuine sadness about loss, allow yourself to grieve fully and integrate that experience into your understanding, that's coherent. Coherence means your internal signals match your external reality, creating electromagnetic clarity instead of confusion. The physiological cascade that occurs during coherent states reads like science fiction, except it's documented in peer-reviewed research. Your heart begins generating coherent electromagnetic patterns that synchronize your entire system. Brainwaves align, particularly between the heart's neural network and the prefrontal cortex. The vagus nerve optimizes its function, improving communication between brain and body. Cellular communication enhances as bioelectrical signals become clearer and stronger. Here's what blows my mind. Meditation, breathwork, and emotional awareness aren't spiritual practices, they're practical tools for signal optimization. When you sit quietly and focus on your breath, you're literally tuning your bioelectromagnetic transmitter. When you practice heart-focused attention, you're calibrating your most powerful electromagnetic generator. When you honestly examine your emotions without judgment, you're clearing interference patterns that muddy your signal. The breath connection runs deeper than most people realize. Your autonomic nervous system responds immediately to breathing patterns. Slow, conscious breathing, particularly with slightly longer exhales than inhales, activates parasympathetic nervous system function. This shifts your entire physiology toward coherence. Heart rate variability smooths out. Brain waves begin synchronizing. Stress hormones decrease, while coherence-supporting neurotransmitters increase. Heart-focused attention amplifies this effect exponentially. Place your attention in your heart area while breathing slowly and evenly. This isn't visualization. You're literally directing your consciousness toward your body's most powerful electromagnetic generator. The heart produces electromagnetic fields roughly 5,000 times stronger than the brain. When you focus there, while breathing coherently, you're optimizing your primary broadcast antenna. Emotional honesty acts like signal clearing equipment. Every suppressed emotion, every denied feeling, every forced positive thought creates electromagnetic static. But when you acknowledge what you actually feel, not what you think you should feel, those interference patterns begin dissolving. The energy that was tied up in maintaining emotional facades becomes available for coherent transmission. This creates a remarkable feedback loop that changes everything. As your internal signals become clearer and more coherent, the responses you receive from the quantum field become clearer too. Coherent signals attract coherent responses. This reinforces your coherent state, making it easier to maintain over time. Ever wonder why some people seem to effortlessly attract positive experiences, while others struggle despite trying every manifestation technique? The difference lies in baseline coherence levels. People with naturally high coherence, often developed through years of authentic self-work, meditation, or simply honest living, broadcast clear, consistent signals. The field responds with matching clarity. Meanwhile, people broadcasting electromagnetic chaos receive chaotic responses. They might occasionally hit the right frequency and attract something wonderful, but they can't maintain it because their underlying signal remains incoherent. They're like radios with loose connections. Sometimes you get clear reception, but mostly it's static. Practical coherence manifests in ways you can actually measure and observe. Your intuition sharpens dramatically because you're receiving clearer information from the field. Your timing improves. You show up at the right place at the right moment more frequently. Synchronicities increase because your coherent signal creates more opportunities for meaningful connections. Even your healing capacity enhances as your body's communication systems optimize. The most profound realization is this: coherence isn't some advanced spiritual achievement you need to attain. It's your natural state. You're not trying to become something foreign, you're returning to your optimal frequency. Every baby is born in coherence. Watch an infant breathe, notice their emotional authenticity. Observe their present moment awareness. That's your original signal, before conditioning created the noise. The question isn't whether you can achieve coherence, it's whether you're ready to remove the interference patterns that obscure your natural frequency. Because once your signal becomes crystal clear, everything changes. The field begins responding to who you actually are, not who you've been pretending to be. When we talked about your electromagnetic signal becoming crystal clear, we touched on something that would have sounded like pure fantasy just decades ago. But here's what the research is now showing us. Your consciousness doesn't just observe your biology, it actively rewrites it, moment by moment, at the level of your genes themselves. For over a century, we've been told that DNA is your biological destiny, fixed code, unchangeable programming inherited from your ancestors. The scientific establishment built entire careers on this mechanistic view of genetics, treating your body like a computer running predetermined software. But this fundamental assumption has crumbled under the weight of new evidence, and what's emerging is far more extraordinary. Your DNA isn't a silent strand of biology trapped inside the nucleus of your cells. It's a living instrument of perception, constantly reading and responding to the electromagnetic environment you create through your thoughts, emotions, and states of consciousness. This field of study, called epigenetics, reveals that while your genetic sequence remains the same, which genes get activated or silenced changes dramatically based on environmental signals, including the coherent or chaotic frequencies generated by your own awareness. Dr. Bruce Lipton's groundbreaking research on the biology of belief showed us something remarkable about how this actually works. He discovered that the cell membrane, not the nucleus, is the true brain of the cell. These membranes are constantly sampling the electromagnetic environment around them, reading chemical and energetic signals, then instructing the genetic machinery inside accordingly. When you generate coherent electromagnetic fields through practices like meditation or genuine states of gratitude, these cellular membranes literally receive different information than when you're stressed, fearful, or scattered. The implications are staggering. Studies on long-term meditators show consistent patterns of genetic expression that look nothing like the general population. Genes associated with inflammation, the root cause of most chronic diseases, get turned down like dimming a light switch. Meanwhile, genes linked to cellular repair, neuroplasticity, and immune function ramp up significantly. This isn't happening over years or decades. Researchers have documented measurable changes in gene expression after just 8 weeks of mindfulness practice. But here's where it gets even more fascinating. Your cells are literally generating light. Every healthy cell in your body emits what scientists call biophotons, extremely weak but measurable photon emissions that serve as a communication system between cells. When your consciousness is coherent, when you're in those clear, present states we discussed earlier, these biophotons emit in steady, harmonious patterns. It's like your entire body becomes a symphony of light, with each cell contributing to a coherent biological orchestra. Contrast this with what happens during stress, anxiety, or emotional chaos. The biophoton emissions become erratic, chaotic, flickering unpredictably. Your cellular communication network starts breaking down. Genes associated with survival mode activate, while those responsible for growth, repair, and higher function shut down. Your biology literally reflects the electromagnetic noise we talked about in the previous section. The nervous system serves as the primary translator in this consciousness biology conversation. When you achieve genuine coherence, not forced positivity, but authentic alignment, your autonomic nervous system shifts into what researchers call psychophysiological coherence. Heart rate variability becomes rhythmic and smooth. Brain waves synchronize across different regions. The vagus nerve, your body's primary rest and repair pathway, optimizes its function. This is why authentic visualization and intention work so powerfully, while forced positive thinking often fails miserably. Your cellular machinery can distinguish between genuine coherent states and mental gymnastics. When you're truly aligned, when your electromagnetic signature becomes clear and steady, your biology responds immediately. When you're trying to think your way into feeling better while your nervous system remains dysregulated, your cells receive mixed signals and the genetic expression patterns remain unchanged. We're seeing extraordinary examples of this in cases of spontaneous healing, those medically documented instances where people recover from supposedly incurable conditions. What these cases have in common isn't miracle cures or divine intervention, but sudden, dramatic shifts in electromagnetic coherence. The person's entire biofield reorganizes, often following profound emotional releases or spiritual experiences, and their genetic expression patterns flip almost overnight. Take telomerase activity, for instance. Telomeres are the protective caps on your chromosomes that typically shorten with age and stress. But studies on people in transcendent states, deep meditation, flow states, moments of profound peace, show increased telomerase activity, literally reversing cellular aging markers in real time. Your consciousness isn't just affecting how you feel, it's influencing how your cells age, repair, and regenerate. The research on immune function is equally compelling. People who regularly access coherent states show enhanced natural killer cell activity, improved antibody production, and more efficient inflammatory responses. Their bodies become more resilient, more adaptive, more capable of maintaining health in challenging environments. Here's what this means for your awakening process. You're not trying to transcend your biology or escape your physical form. You're returning to optimal coherence, where consciousness and cellular function operate as an integrated system. Your body isn't a vehicle for consciousness. It's consciousness expressing itself in biological form. This is why awakening often comes with physical sensations, energy shifts, and even temporary detox symptoms. Your genetic expression patterns are literally reorganizing. Genes that have been suppressed for years or decades suddenly activate. Cellular repair mechanisms that were dormant come online. Your entire biological system recalibrates to match your new electromagnetic signature. The most profound realization from this research is that awakening isn't a mystical concept requiring faith or belief. It's a measurable biological process of returning to the coherent state your system was designed to operate in. When you become the field, when your consciousness stabilizes in that clear, present, electromagnetically coherent state, your biology naturally follows. Your next step is surprisingly practical. Start paying attention to how different thoughts, emotions, and states of being actually feel in your body. Notice the difference between authentic peace and forced calm, between genuine gratitude and obligatory thankfulness. Your cellular machinery is constantly giving you feedback about your electromagnetic state. Learning to read these signals is learning to consciously participate in your own biological transformation. Your body isn't just flesh and bone, it's the most sophisticated communication device you've ever owned, and you've been using it without reading the manual. Every cell, every organ, every system is part of an intricate antenna network that's been receiving and transmitting quantum information since the moment you were born. The question isn't whether you're connected to the field, it's whether you're tuning in clearly or drowning in static. Let's start with something remarkable that most people never consider. Your bones aren't solid structures. They're crystalline matrices, primarily made of hydroxyapatite crystals that naturally conduct and amplify electromagnetic frequencies. When scientists study these bone crystals under electron microscopes, they find organized lattice structures identical to the crystals used in radio technology. Your skeleton is literally a crystal radio, picking up and transmitting signals through your entire body. But the crystalline network goes much deeper. The water in your cells, which makes up roughly 70% of your body, isn't ordinary water. It exists in what researchers call a structured state, forming liquid crystal arrangements that can store and transmit information. Dr. Gerald Pollack's groundbreaking research at the University of Washington revealed that cellular water organizes itself into coherent patterns, creating what he termed exclusion zones that maintain specific electromagnetic signatures. This isn't mystical thinking, it's measurable physics happening inside you right now. Your DNA, as we explored earlier when discussing consciousness affecting genetic expression, serves as the central antenna in this biological communication system. Those elegant double helixes aren't just genetic blueprints, they're helical antennas perfectly designed to receive and transmit electromagnetic information across multiple frequency ranges. When your consciousness shifts, when your emotional state changes, your DNA literally retunes itself to different frequencies, altering what information it can access from the quantum field. The heart generates the strongest electromagnetic field in your body, extending several feet beyond your physical form in all directions. The HeartMath Institute has documented how this cardiac field carries complex information patterns that change based on your emotional state. When you're in coherence, that state of crystal clear signal we discussed, your heart's electromagnetic signature becomes highly organized, creating what researchers call heart rhythm coherence. This coherent field doesn't just affect you, it influences everyone within its range. Think about how you can sense someone's emotional state when they walk into a room, even before they speak. That's your antenna system picking up their electromagnetic signature. The Institute of Noetic Sciences has measured how one person's heart rhythm patterns can synchronize with another person's brainwaves when they're in close proximity. Your biofield, that sphere of electromagnetic influence, extending beyond your physical body, is constantly communicating with other fields, exchanging information at levels far below conscious awareness. Your nervous system acts as the wiring for this entire antenna array. Every nerve fiber is a conductive pathway, and the myelin sheaths surrounding your neurons function like insulation on electrical cables, ensuring clean signal transmission. When your nervous system is in a coherent state, when that noise we talked about earlier has been cleared, information flows through these pathways with remarkable clarity and speed. The phenomenon you call intuition becomes much less mysterious when viewed through this lens. That sudden knowing, that gut feeling that arrives before your rational mind has processed the situation, that's your antenna system picking up information from the quantum field and translating it into conscious awareness. Some people seem naturally more intuitive because their biological antenna systems operate with higher sensitivity and less electromagnetic interference. Environmental factors dramatically affect your antenna function. When you walk barefoot on natural ground, what researchers call grounding or earthing, you're literally connecting your biofield with Earth's electromagnetic field. Studies show that this connection reduces inflammation, improves heart rate variability, and enhances overall coherence. The Earth maintains a steady electromagnetic frequency of approximately 783 Hz, known as the Schumann resonance, and human brainwaves naturally synchronize with this frequency when given the opportunity. Modern environments often create what amounts to electromagnetic pollution that interferes with your antenna function. Fluorescent lights flicker at frequencies that can disrupt your nervous system's natural rhythms. Wi-Fi signals, cell towers, and electronic devices create a constant background of electromagnetic noise that your body must filter through. This is why many people report feeling more clear-headed and energized when they spend time in nature, away from artificial electromagnetic fields. The company you keep literally affects your field through a process called electromagnetic entrainment. When you spend time with someone operating in coherence, someone who's achieved that crystal clear signal, your biofield begins to synchronize with theirs. Conversely, being around people in electromagnetic chaos can pull your own system into incoherence. This isn't metaphorical. It's measurable with sensitive electromagnetic equipment. Ancient practices like yoga, tai chi, and qigong work by optimizing your body's electromagnetic coherence and antenna function. These aren't just physical exercises, they're antenna tuning protocols developed over thousands of years. The flowing movements, controlled breathing, and focused attention create specific brainwave patterns that enhance the coherence of your entire biofield. Regular practitioners often report heightened intuition and sensitivity. Their antenna systems have been optimized for clearer reception. Water plays a crucial role in maintaining your antenna's sensitivity. Proper hydration with structured water that's been exposed to natural electromagnetic fields through movement over rocks or exposure to sunlight, supports optimal cellular communication. Many traditional cultures understood this, choosing spring water from specific sources known for their unique energetic properties. Your emotional and mental states directly tune your antenna to different frequencies. Fear, anxiety, and stress create electromagnetic incoherence that reduces your ability to receive subtle information from the field. Love, gratitude, and compassion generate coherent electromagnetic patterns that enhance your sensitivity and range. This is why meditation practices consistently report expanded awareness and heightened intuition. They're literally tuning your biological antenna for optimal performance. The implications are profound. You're not separate from the information field around you. You're an integral part of it, constantly exchanging information through your sophisticated biological antenna system. Understanding this connection is the first step toward consciously optimizing your ability to receive and transmit the subtle information that guides awakened consciousness. Your body has always been designed for this quantum communication. The question is, are you ready to learn how to use it consciously? When ancient traditions spoke of the heart as the seat of power, they weren't being poetic. They were describing a fundamental mechanism of reality creation that modern science is only beginning to understand. Your emotions aren't psychological reactions happening inside your head. They're electromagnetic broadcasts that literally reshape the quantum field around you. The Heart Math Institute has documented something extraordinary. Your heart generates an electromagnetic field 60 times greater in amplitude than your brain. When you feel genuine emotion, this field doesn't just change. It transforms into a coherent pattern that can be measured up to 8 feet from your body. But here's what they discovered that changes everything. The quality of your emotions determines the geometry of this field, and the geometry of this field determines what reality responds to your presence. Think about the last time you walked into a room and immediately felt the tension, or encountered someone whose presence made you feel instantly at ease. You weren't reading body language or facial expressions. You were sensing the actual electromagnetic signature of their emotional state. This isn't metaphysics, it's physics. Emotions create measurable changes in the space around us, and these changes communicate directly with the quantum field that Thoth describes as the fundamental fabric of reality. The ancient texts speak of emotion as frequency encoded with intention, and this description is remarkably precise. When you feel authentic love, your heart rhythm becomes coherent, creating spiral wave patterns that actually increase the organization of your biofield. Fear, by contrast, creates chaotic interference patterns that fragment your electromagnetic signature. Gratitude generates expansive waveforms that seem to open channels for synchronicity and manifestation. But here's where most people get stuck. They've been taught to manage emotions instead of mastering them. There's a profound difference. Managing emotions means controlling, suppressing, or performing them. Mastering emotions means understanding them as creative forces and learning to direct them consciously. The field responds only to authentic emotion, never to performed emotion. You can't fake your way into manifestation because your electromagnetic signature reveals the truth of what you're actually feeling. When you try to force positivity over genuine frustration, you create mixed signals, part expansion, part contraction. The field receives static instead of clear communication. Watch what happens when you resist an emotion versus when you feel it fully. Resistance creates muscular tension, shallow breathing, and fragmented biofield patterns. Full feeling, without the story or drama, transforms the emotion into pure energy that your system can actually use. This is the difference between emotional suppression and emotional alchemy. The breath is your primary tool for emotional transformation. When you breathe into an emotion instead of away from it, you're literally providing the oxygen needed for cellular processing. Most stuck emotions aren't stuck because they're too powerful, they're stuck because they never received enough breath to complete their natural cycle. Try this. Next time you feel anger, instead of telling yourself the story about why you're angry, breathe directly into the physical sensation. Where do you feel it in your body? What's the texture, the temperature, the movement? When you feel into the sensation rather than the story, something remarkable happens. The emotion transforms from a problem into energy you can direct. Cultural conditioning has taught us to fear our own emotional intensity. We've been programmed to believe that negative emotions are dangerous, that feeling deeply makes us unstable, that emotional authenticity is somehow selfish or inappropriate. This conditioning serves systems that benefit from your disconnection from your own creative power, because emotions are literally the voltage that powers manifestation. When you judge an emotion as negative, you create resistance to your own creative energy. Fear, anger, grief, these aren't obstacles to awakening. They're concentrated life force that, when felt fully and transformed consciously, becomes available for creating the reality you actually want. Confusion between emotion and drama keeps many people trapped in cycles of reactivity. Drama is emotion plus story plus performance. Pure emotion is energy in motion, seeking completion and transformation. When you feel anger without making it mean something about you or someone else, when you feel grief without the narrative about loss, when you feel fear without the projection into future catastrophe, these emotions become pure creative fuel. Emotional coherence creates ripple effects that extend far beyond your personal experience. When you achieve authentic emotional states, your biofield becomes a tuning fork that can actually catalyze healing and awakening in others. This is why being around someone who has mastered their emotional energy feels so transformative. Their coherent field helps organize the fields of those around them. The ancient mystery schools understood this principle and trained initiates in emotional alchemy as a foundational skill. They knew that consciousness without emotional mastery remains trapped in the mental realm, unable to create lasting change in physical reality. The universe doesn't move because of an idea. It moves because of the vibration behind the idea, and that vibration is generated through authentic emotional engagement. Your emotions are not problems to solve, they're creative forces to direct consciously. When you stop trying to fix your feelings and start partnering with them as allies in reality creation, you discover that you've been carrying the key to manifestation in your heart all along. The field is always listening to the truth of what you feel. Make sure your emotional broadcast matches the reality you're calling into existence. Your nervous system isn't just wiring in your body, it's the living bridge between who you think you are and who you're becoming. Every thought you think, every emotion you feel, every frequency you embody, literally rewrites the neural pathways that determine your reality. The fascinating truth is that your nervous system is completely loyal. It repeats what you teach it until you choose a new lesson. Most people walk around with nervous systems that were programmed in childhood, running on autopilot patterns that were never consciously chosen. You've got neural superhighways carved deep from decades of stress responses, fear reactions, and survival mode thinking. These pathways become so automatic that you mistake them for who you are. But here's what changes everything. Neuroplasticity means your brain is constantly rewiring itself based on what you consistently practice. When researchers first discovered neuroplasticity, it revolutionized our understanding of human potential. They found that London taxi drivers who spent years memorizing the city's complex street layout actually developed enlarged hippocampi, the brain region responsible for spatial memory. Musicians showed dramatically different brain structures in areas controlling finger dexterity. What you do repeatedly literally sculpts your brain, but it goes deeper than just learning new skills. Your nervous system is translating every emotional state into biological reality through your autonomic nervous system. When you're in chronic stress, your sympathetic nervous system floods your body with cortisol and adrenaline. Over time, This becomes your baseline. Your nervous system learns that hypervigilance and tension are normal. These stress patterns embed themselves as default neural networks that fire automatically. Think about how this plays out in your daily life. You walk into a room and immediately scan for threats that don't exist. You receive a text message, and your heart rate spikes before you even read it. Your nervous system is running programs from past experiences, treating the present moment as if it's still that original trauma or stress. The body keeps the score, as trauma researcher Bessel van der Kolk famously put it. This is why nervous system regulation isn't just about feeling calmer, it's the foundation for accessing higher states of consciousness. When your nervous system is dysregulated, stuck in fight or flight or freeze responses, you're literally incapable of perceiving the subtle energies and quantum information we discussed in previous sections. Your antenna gets jammed by the static of survival mode. The polyvagal theory, developed by Dr. Stephen Porges, reveals how the vagus nerve serves as the primary pathway for heart-brain communication. This wandering nerve connects your brain to your heart, lungs, digestive system, and other vital organs. When your vagus nerve is toned and healthy, it creates coherence between your heart and brain rhythms. This coherent state is when magic happens, when you can access flow states, intuitive insights, and what some call extrasensory abilities. Your vagus nerve has two main branches. The older branch connects to your reptilian brain and triggers freeze responses when you're overwhelmed. The newer branch connects to your social engagement system and allows for calm, connected states. Most people spend their lives bouncing between sympathetic activation and dorsal vagal shutdown, never accessing the sweet spot of ventral vagal activation where creativity and connection flourish. But you can consciously upgrade your nervous system through specific practices. Breathwork is one of the most direct ways to retrain your autonomic responses. When you extend your exhale longer than your inhale, say breathing in for 4 counts and out for 8, you're directly activating your parasympathetic nervous system. This isn't just relaxation, you're literally teaching your nervous system a new baseline. Cold exposure is another powerful tool for nervous system training. When you deliberately expose yourself to controlled stress like cold water, you're practicing staying calm in activation. Your nervous system learns that it can handle intensity without going into panic mode. This builds what researchers call stress inoculation, the ability to remain centered in challenging situations. Movement practices that cross the midline of your body create bilateral brain stimulation, integrating left and right hemispheres. When you move your right hand to touch your left knee, or do figure-8 movements with your arms, you're literally creating new neural pathways and helping your nervous system process stored trauma and stress. Meditation isn't just about quieting the mind. Specific techniques create measurable changes in brain structure. Loving-kindness meditation increases gray matter in areas associated with empathy. Focused attention meditation strengthens the prefrontal cortex. Open monitoring meditation enhances the brain's default mode network. You're not just feeling peaceful, you're rebuilding your brain. Here's something most people don't realize. Trauma and conditioning create loops in your nervous system that perpetuate old patterns. When something triggers you, your nervous system activates the same neural pathway it used during the original experience. You're not just remembering the trauma, you're reliving it somatically. Your body doesn't know the difference between past and present. Breaking these loops requires conscious intervention at the nervous system level. This is why traditional talk therapy sometimes falls short. You can understand your patterns intellectually while your nervous system continues running the same programs. Somatic approaches that work directly with nervous system states can create breakthroughs that pure cognitive work can't achieve. There's also the phenomenon of nervous system co-regulation. When you're around someone with a coherent, regulated nervous system, your own system begins to sync with theirs. This is why being around certain people makes you feel instantly calmer, while others leave you feeling drained or agitated. Coherent nervous systems influence and stabilize others through proximity and intention. As your nervous system becomes more regulated, something remarkable happens. You become more sensitive to subtle energies and information. A dysregulated nervous system is like trying to tune into a radio station while there's interference. But when your system is coherent, you can pick up signals that were always there but previously masked by the noise of survival mode. This is the biological basis for states like flow, presence, and transcendence. When your nervous system is optimally regulated, your brain waves shift into coherent patterns. Your heart rhythm becomes coherent. your entire system operates as an integrated whole rather than competing parts. In this state, you naturally access abilities that seem extraordinary but are actually your birthright. The profound truth is that upgrading your nervous system is upgrading your capacity to hold and transmit higher frequencies of consciousness. When you become the field, as Thoth suggests, it's not a metaphysical concept. It's a biological reality that begins with the conscious evolution of your nervous system. Start with your breath today. Spend 5 minutes practicing extended exhales. Feel your nervous system learning its new lesson. Within the elegant double helix of your DNA lies something extraordinary that mainstream science is only beginning to understand. Scattered throughout your genetic code are sequences that don't respond to what you eat, where you live, or what toxins you encounter. Instead, they respond to something far more profound: the electromagnetic signature of your consciousness itself. Think about this for a moment. You have approximately 2 billion base pairs in your DNA, yet only about 2% of these sequences code for proteins. For decades, scientists dismissed the remaining 98% as junk DNA, evolutionary leftovers with no real function. But recent discoveries in epigenetics have shattered this assumption completely. What we're finding is that vast portions of this so-called junk DNA are actually dormant programs, waiting for the right conditions to activate. These aren't random genetic switches. They're sequences of light that have never been expressed in most people, dormant codes resting in the spiral of your DNA, waiting for the right frequency to awaken them. And here's what's remarkable. The key to their activation isn't found in any external substance or technology. It's found in the coherent electromagnetic field generated by your own nervous system when you achieve sustained states of inner harmony. Remember what we explored about your nervous system's capacity to upgrade its functioning. When you consistently practice coherence through meditation, breathwork, heart-centered living, you're not just changing your mental state. You're literally altering the electromagnetic environment that bathes every cell in your body, and certain genetic sequences are exquisitely sensitive to these field changes. Dr. Bruce Lipton's groundbreaking research in cellular biology revealed that the environment surrounding a cell is more powerful than its genetic programming in determining how that cell behaves. But we're discovering something even more profound. Consciousness itself creates the environment that determines which genetic potentials get expressed. When you maintain coherent brainwave patterns, when your heart rhythm becomes mathematically ordered, when your emotional state stabilizes in higher frequencies, you create the precise conditions needed for dormant DNA sequences to activate. This isn't metaphysical speculation. Researchers at institutions like the HeartMath Institute have documented measurable changes in genetic expression following just 8 weeks of coherence training. Participants showed activation of genes associated with enhanced immune function, improved cellular repair mechanisms, and increased production of anti-aging enzymes. But these changes only occurred in individuals who achieved sustained coherence, not in those who practiced sporadically. The process feels different for everyone, but there are common patterns. Many people first notice subtle energy movements in their body, tingling sensations along the spine, warmth in the chest, or gentle pulsing in their hands. These aren't imaginary experiences. They're the felt sense of your bioelectric field reorganizing itself. Your nervous system is literally rewiring to accommodate higher frequencies of information processing. Others experience heightened sensitivity to their environment. Colors appear more vivid, sounds carry more nuance, and they begin picking up on subtle energies around people and places. This isn't psychic ability in the supernatural sense. It's the activation of dormant sensory capacities that exist within normal human neurology. When genetic sequences associated with expanded perception come online, your nervous system gains access to information it previously filtered out. The emotional component can be intense. As these dormant codes activate, they often trigger the release of stored emotional patterns that have been limiting your system's capacity for coherence. You might experience waves of unexplained sadness, anger, or fear as your cellular memory clears decades of accumulated stress patterns. This isn't a breakdown, it's a breakthrough. Your system is literally upgrading itself, and old programming must be cleared to make space for new capacities. Physical changes accompany this process too. Many people report accelerated healing from chronic conditions, increased energy levels, and improved sleep quality. Some develop enhanced intuitive abilities, not mystical powers, but refined capacity to process subtle information through their nervous system. They begin sensing the emotional states of others, picking up on environmental energies, or having insights that seem to come from beyond their rational mind. Why does this process require sustained practice rather than happening all at once? Your nervous system and cellular structures need time to adapt to higher frequencies. It's similar to physical training. You can't go from couch to marathon overnight without risking injury. Your biological systems must gradually build the capacity to hold and integrate these expanded states of functioning. From a scientific perspective, what we call the light body is actually the coherent biofield generated when your nervous system operates in optimal states. Advanced meditators show measurable changes in their electromagnetic signature. Their bodies literally emit more organized light. Russian scientist Dr. Konstantin Korotkov has photographed these biofield changes using specialized cameras, revealing that sustained spiritual practice creates visible alterations in the energy field surrounding the human body. There are documented cases of individuals who've demonstrated extraordinary abilities following intensive consciousness practices. Wim Hof can consciously control his immune system and withstand extreme cold through breathing techniques. Tibetan monks can raise their body temperature enough to dry wet sheets in freezing conditions. These aren't supernatural phenomena. They're examples of what becomes possible when dormant genetic potentials activate through sustained coherence practice. But here's what's crucial to understand. These capacities aren't special gifts reserved for a chosen few. They're inherent potentials waiting within every human nervous system. The dormant codes in your DNA represent evolutionary possibilities that our species is only beginning to access. As more individuals activate these sequences through coherent living, they contribute to what biologist Rupert Sheldrake calls morphic resonance, the phenomenon where learned behaviors in some members of a species make those same behaviors easier for other members to acquire. Your individual awakening isn't just personal transformation, it's contributing to collective human evolution. Every time you choose coherence over chaos, presence over reactivity, love over fear, you're not just changing your own genetic expression. You're making it easier for others to access these same potentials through the field effects of consciousness itself. The most profound realization is this: awakening isn't something mystical happening to you. It's something biological happening through you. Your DNA contains the blueprints for capacities that mystics and sages have demonstrated throughout history. The question isn't whether you have these potentials. You do. The question is whether you'll create the coherent conditions necessary for them to express. The moment arrives when you realize something that changes everything. There is no field out there that you're trying to influence. You are the field. This isn't metaphorical poetry or spiritual bypassing. This is the most practical truth you'll ever encounter. Think about what's happened as your nervous system has rewired itself for higher frequencies, as those dormant genetic codes have begun their activation sequence. You've been experiencing something profound. The boundaries between your inner experience and external reality have started dissolving. What you once thought were separate phenomena, your thoughts, emotions, the responses from your environment, the synchronicities, the people who show up in your life, you're beginning to recognize as expressions of a single, unified field of awareness. This recognition doesn't happen all at once. It emerges gradually as you sustain coherence. One day you notice that your internal state seems to influence the behavior of people around you without any verbal communication. Another day you realize that challenging situations aren't happening to you. They're arising from the same field that you are, providing exactly the feedback needed for your continued evolution. The universe isn't responding to your requests. It's expressing through your localized awareness. When this understanding fully integrates, everything transforms. Relationships stop being interactions between separate beings and become energy exchanges within a unified field. You begin to sense the emotional and energetic states of others, not because you're psychic, but because there's only one field expressing through multiple focal points of awareness. The person across from you isn't separate from you. They're another expression of the same fundamental consciousness that you are. Your circumstances become transparent. That challenging boss, that financial pressure, that health issue, they're not external obstacles. They're the field providing feedback about frequency patterns that are ready to be refined. When you truly grasp this, victim consciousness becomes impossible. You're not being acted upon by external forces. You're witnessing how consciousness expresses when filtered through particular frequency patterns. Decision-making undergoes a complete revolution. Instead of mentally analyzing pros and cons, you begin to sense the field's natural movement. Decisions that align with your highest evolution feel effortless and generate expanding energy. Choices that would take you away from coherence feel contractive and forced. You're not making decisions anymore, you're allowing the field's intelligence to express through your localized awareness. Creation becomes something entirely different. You stop trying to manifest things and start recognizing yourself as the creative principle that's already manifesting everything. The strain of forcing desired outcomes dissolves because you realize you're not separate from the creative force, you are it. Your role shifts from trying to get the universe to give you what you want to becoming so coherent that the field naturally expresses its highest potentials through your particular focal point. This is when spontaneous knowing begins. Information arrives without learning, solutions appear without thinking. You know things you've never studied because the field's intelligence is your intelligence. The illusion of a separate self trying to figure things out gives way to recognizing yourself as the knowing itself. But here's what makes this practical rather than just mystical. This recognition affects everyone around you through field resonance. When you embody the understanding that you are the field, your coherence becomes a transmission. People in your presence begin accessing states of awareness they didn't know were possible. Not because you're doing anything to them, but because coherence is contagious within a unified field. This brings profound responsibility. As you recognize yourself as a localized expression of the universal field, you realize that your coherence contributes to the collective awakening of humanity. Every moment you spend in alignment, every frequency you refine, every pattern you heal, it all affects the whole because there is no separation. You become a conscious steward of the field itself. Living from this understanding requires a delicate balance. You maintain your human functioning, paying bills, nurturing relationships, taking care of your body, while holding the perspective that all of this is the field expressing through form. You serve others not from obligation, but from recognition that there are no others, only different expressions of the same consciousness you are. The challenge is staying grounded while experiencing this expanded awareness. The field expresses through physical reality, so embodiment becomes crucial. You learn to translate elevated states into practical service. Your expanded perception becomes a gift you offer through your presence, your work, your relationships. This integration never reaches a final destination. Awakening reveals itself as an endless deepening into greater coherence and more refined service. Each level of realization opens doorways to even more subtle understandings. You discover that becoming the field isn't an achievement. It's a recognition of what you've always been, with infinite depths yet to explore. The most beautiful aspect of this final stage is how natural it becomes. You stop efforting to maintain special states and simply rest in the recognition of your fundamental nature. The field doesn't struggle to be itself, it simply is. And as you recognize yourself as that same field, expressing through the unique focal point of your human experience, life becomes an effortless dance of consciousness knowing itself. If this video resonated with you, let us know by commenting, "I understood it."